Thank you so much for joining us today for the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. Here on the Pastor's Potluck, it's similar to a normal potluck where you might get something that you want and there may be something that you just want to pass up altogether. And that's okay. There's something here for everybody. Our goal here is to encourage you and maybe in the process entertain you. If you're ready, let's dig in. Well, welcome.
Welcome.
Did I startle you with the welcome?
Maybe.
Welcome to another episode of the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. I'm your host, Jared. I don't think I've ever said that.
What?
I'm your host.
I'm the host?
Yeah, that's stupid.
Hostess with the mostest. It's like, I have a deep, vast knowledge of YouTube rabbit holes that I could take you down as the host.
For real. Yeah, we just went down the rabbit hole of like some different music people on that just do weird things. I don't know. Like
amazing mouth noises and like body smacking sounds, like smacking the chest. The one was like, that was amazing.
Yeah.
Like who needs a whole band? This is the turn for worship. Right?
No, it's not actually.
Like, okay, team, no more instruments. You're only allowed to slap your own like shoulders.
Yeah, you gotta hum your guitar strums and piano noises and everything else.
It's like Pitch Perfect, right? Isn't that what's that called when you have no
like acapella?
Acapella, that's it.
Yeah, I don't want to like pentatonics worship. I don't want to do that.
No.
I don't know that I have the patience. I don't know that that's where Scott wants us to go here at Southridge.
But what does the Lord want, Jared?
And by the Lord, I mean me.
Jeez.
Oh, yeah. Good day. Dude, it's been cold this week, too.
Yeah.
Yesterday, it was like 14 degrees whenever I left to go drop off the kids.
Yep. It's chilly here. Well, I said... to Maddie, our youth intern, I said, man, it's like it's winter. How did that happen? And she goes, do you really need to know? And I said, no, I understand the tilting of the axis. I get it. Like, I understand how it happened. It's just, it happened very quickly, it seemed.
Well, I mean, I was just thinking about this yesterday, just like how fast this whole year has gone. Like, we're almost to a year whenever the leak happened.
Yeah. Yep.
We spent the first 9 months all in the same room of this first 9 months of this year. We were all in the cafe. Yeah. Which now that we're in our offices almost feels like a lifetime ago. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because I mean, it's been blowing and going all year long. It's like things just don't stop.
No.
And it's just time kept on passing on.
Yeah.
Kept on trucking.
Those were the old days now.
Yeah, back in the day, whenever we were in the cafe. Oh, what do you say? Alrighty, well, we are on a discovery conversation today.
Yeah.
This is fairly new for you. It is extremely new for me. And we are going to be talking about something that's called cultural intelligence.
Yeah. I mean, like we all know, like IQ, like intellectual, like intelligence. We've heard of like EQ, like emotional intelligence. We went through a book last year on like our emotional health, like emotional, spiritual health, and like how that is important. And this is something that was just kind of, it came up a little organically in my life, but also I've been like semi-obsessed with the wisdom books lately in the Bible. Like I just got through Job and reading through like Proverbs and just kind of like reading these wisdoms and just kind of coming through like so many of those conversations and wisdom have cultural tie-ins. Like, hey, when you're in this situation, like with these types of people or with these types of like crops or these kind, like it's just like all, it's very cultural like references. Mm-hmm. It's like, this is what should be done. Like fools do this and wise people do this, like kind of coming into it. And then this idea of cultural intelligence, which is a pretty new theory. I think it was officially published in 2015, like the theory. I was just like intrigued with that, like trying to understand like how is this important in my life, especially working with teenagers and adults, like because if you step into a space with teens or kids, you're in a different culture. Like as an adult, like the second you step into a room with elementary school kids, it's like, this is not my world anymore.
Yeah.
This is, I don't know what's happening here.
Yeah.
Same thing with a room full of middle school or a room full of high school. It's like, these are very unique, different pockets of little human cultures.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I've just been really interested in diving into that. And then, of course, just the world we're in. I feel like there's cultural sways everywhere for the good and for the bad. Like things are happening that are just awful and terrible towards people because of something they can't change, their culture. Like it's just their culture, and terrible things are happening to them. And then on the other side, there are people who are fighting for justice regardless of culture. So I don't know. I think it's an interesting thing to have a discovery conversation about.
Yeah. One of the cool things that I've realized is that it's not just like age groups, because I mean, America's a melting pot for all different types of cultures, which I'm super grateful for, because it opens up your eyes to other people's worlds besides my own.
Yeah.
Besides the immediate, area that I'm always around, which is my wife and my kids. We have our ways of doing things, but just to be able to experience other people's way of life, and to be able to experience how maybe certain ethnicities or certain religions or certain cultures do things, I think is I don't want to ever walk through life and be so naive to the fact that like other people do things differently than I do.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Like, and being okay with that, I think, is important.
Yeah.
That a lot of people, I told you I had a funny story, and so this is what kind of like, after you sent me this test to take on it and see where I fit on this cultural intelligence spectrum, so to speak. But, so the first time that I went on a missions trip, I was between my junior and senior year in high school. And I went to India, and we stayed at a hotel that they had breakfast every morning, and it was super cheap to be able to do so. And I woke up a little bit late one morning, and they had a guy there that would prepare certain, dishes that were in Indian.
Nice.
But most everybody was just like, oh, can you, they always had like this big stack of eggs behind the guy, and he would cook it fresh for you in front of you. And, hey, what do you want in it? Tomatoes, spinach, all the Indian spices and accoutrements that go with it. And I wake up late, and I walk up to him and I said, can I get scrambled eggs? And he looked at me and he went, and shook his head. I was like, all right, no. well, what can I get? And he goes, well, we have eggs. And I was like, all right. I'm thinking in the back of my mind, I was like, they told this guy to play a joke on me. I said, do you know how to make fried eggs? And he did the same thing. And I was like, what in the world? This guy has a pan in front of him. He has eggs. He told me he knows how to make eggs. I've asked him how to scramble them. I've asked him to fry them, and he keeps on telling me no. And so I was just like, forget it, and walked away. Come to find out that in India, the way that they say yes is the way that we say no in America, is by shaking your head
my goodness.
left to right. And I felt like an idiot the rest of the day. And I remember seeing him the next morning, and I was like, I am so sorry. Like, I gave you the hardest time in the world, asking about scrambled eggs, asking about fried eggs, asking about over easy eggs, poached, whatever, all these different types of eggs. And I just misunderstood you, because the way that you say yes in India is the way that we say no in America. And it's just by shaking our heads left to right. And I remember feeling like a complete idiot. Like even the rest of the I still to this day, like I always think about this instance in the back of my mind. And I was like, I am never going to allow that to happen again. I'm never going to allow cultural differences to get in the way of, because I could have had like a really cool moment with that guy, understanding his culture.
Yeah.
And
had you known.
Had I known.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I just,
it's pretty amazing.
I just always remembered sitting there going, I want to do whatever it takes to be able to understand and be a part of someone else's culture.
Yeah.
Even if it can be sometimes uncomfortable for me, because I want them to feel comfortable in doing what they feel is important and is what right for them.
Well, I think that creates a mutual ground of respect to do that. Like, even if maybe what you do isn't what I would do, or even if what you like isn't what I like to just know that you like it, or to just know that you do that, it creates some type of like mutual footing to say like, I see you, like I see that that's what you're into, or I see that that's what you like I'm not into that, but I see that you are. Yeah. And I don't know that it necessarily has to be more than that in some situations. Like, it's simply like recognizing each other. It's like it's like the head nod greeting at the grocery store. Like, I see you. Yeah. Like, hey, like I don't have to say anything. Like, there you are, head nod. But if I was in India, maybe it would be like head side to side.
Well, I think it's just the way that they say yes. Yeah, so it's not like I don't know that they do like a what's up greeting.
Not the what's up, like the chin up.
Yeah. That's like a hip hop culture thing.
Yeah, we've destroyed all things.
But yeah, and I think it's one of the reasons why it just kind of popped in my head. I think it's one of the reasons why I'm such an adventurous eater. Yeah. It's because like those things that most people would be off put by, like that's the parts of the animal that is normal in a different culture, with like the tendons and all of that stuff. And, like with like Vietnamese culture, they put everything in like the pho noodle soup that they make. And, like in Mexican culture, they eat menudo, which is like all of the stomach lining of the cow, because that's part of their culture. Yeah. And I want to experience it I want to experience every single culture that I can to the absolute best of my ability. Yeah. And I think that's why I scored so high on this cultural intelligence test. It's just because I want to experience. I want to be a part of it. I want to learn it. I want to soak it up because I want to experience it.
Yeah, my curiosity wants to ask you, like, why do you think that is? Like, why do you think you want to experience it?
I think that I don't know. I think I'm just intrigued by the way that other people live. Mm-hmm. I'm intrigued by the things that people eat. I'm intrigued by their conversation. I'm intrigued by how people live, like what's their home situation. Yeah. Like, what does that look like? I don't know. Yeah. I don't, maybe God's calling me to be a missionary. I don't know. Yeah. Like further down the line in life, it's one of those things that I've always I love America. I love our culture. I love the way that we do things here. But I also I think it's just this genuine love of other people that I have. Yeah. Like I want to experience, I want to be on other people's level to understand, even in the situations that hurt. Like, I want to know, like, why they're hurting, what got them to this point of being hurt, and what can I do to try to help? I can't fix situations, but I can be a part of a solution to help.
Yeah. No, I think that I see that. The reason I asked you why is because I kind of like, we've all been working together for a few years now, and I kind of see that like in a lot of us, we are maybe interested in what other people are interested in because we just like people. We we love people. Even when we don't always like people, we love them. Like I see that in our staff, and I see that in people that we work closely with when it comes to like leadership, people in leadership around here. Like people love people, and when you love people, you do step out of your comfort zone to show them that. And it can look like eating a dish that they made that maybe you wouldn't. It can look like going into their home and they design it in a way that you wouldn't. Maybe like whatever that is, it's like that doesn't mean that I don't love, like literally I want to show up in your life because I care about you as a person. And I think that is, in my opinion, I would think that was the root of some of that for you, because I think you do just love people, and it's like, okay, I'm willing to maybe put myself in situations that I normally wouldn't. Like when you said people hurting, I got where you were headed, but my brain went back to food. I was like, because it was too spicy. Like, ouch. Like I am like not into super spicy food, and I've eaten super spicy food because people have made it, and I was hurting. Like the next day, I'm like, okay, I need my stomach pumped. Like something terrible has happened to me. But doing stuff like that can make a big difference. When you were saying that, I didn't plan on sharing this, but this is something that I do sometimes. So I have Snapchat, and on Snapchat you can go to the Snap Map, and you can go all over the globe, and like all these like hot spots are places where people are posting like public snaps. And I don't do it all the time, but pretty regularly, like maybe once or twice a month, I'll just like go around the world and zoom in on those Snap Maps and just see what is life like for someone in Tokyo right now. Like, what are they doing? Like, oh, they're shopping just like people are here, or they're doing, what is happening over there in Tanzania? Like they're just like headed to work just like other people. Like, and I just think that's really neat. It's something that I've been interested in. I've been doing that for years. Like ever since I came out with Snap Map, I'm like, whoa, I can see what someone's doing on the other side of the world, like in real time. Like that was just so cool. And I think social media has offered that to us, like to see other cultures across the board in real time. Like in my experience growing up as a kid, like I think I may have shared this on the pod before. Like we grew up a few miles away from a Hindu temple, a Hare Krishna temple, which is a Hindu god. And that was just a part of my childhood. Like that was very normal to me because that was all that I know. And when you grow up, what you know is all you know. Yeah. Like there's nothing else. And so coming up, that was just a part of what I saw as normal. Like, oh, there are people who have other gods besides my God. And I found out that's not really typical for your average West Virginia kiddo growing up. Like they don't typically know that there are people who worship gods that aren't their God. And even little foundations like that, I think have helped me in my life when I talk to people, like to say, to show respect and to show like honor to them as a person, not necessarily as a religion, or not necessarily as a like person who sees things in certain ways, but like because you're a person, you exist as a human, like you deserve my respect. Like you deserve for me to hear your story and to hear what's going on in your life and like whatever, to see you or to do those things. And looking at the Snap Map and looking at social media, like those things I think have really turned the tide on people seeing cultures in real time, people who normally probably never had been exposed to that stuff. Yeah. And do you think this is just this is a discovery episode? Do you think that is a positive or a negative, or you think there's a side to each, or you think it's a coin with two sides?
What do you think?
Okay, I do have thoughts about it. I think that it is overall positive.
That's what I'm leaning towards as well.
I think it is overall positive.
I think there's the negative side of negative parts of culture.
Yeah, right. Like, so I was having a conversation with somebody recently, and their view, in my opinion, was a little closed-minded, but it was their view, and I was listening to them. And they said, yeah, if I said that in public, I would probably get beat up or I would probably get arrested or whatever. And I said, by who? And they were like, well, by the people who see things this way. And I went, who do you know that has had that happen to them? And they're like, well, it happens all the time. I said, who do you know that you have seen that happen to?
Yeah.
And they were like, well, it would be me. Like, and so just that conversation showed me the negative side of this, like seeing cultures as they are, including whatever culture you are a part of, the good and the bad, the ugly of that.
Yeah.
And then assuming that the ugly is across the board, like assuming that, because that's all that is. It's an assumption that either media or lies or rumors have taken to like made it into a huge monster of an issue.
Yeah.
And then your average person, people like you and I have in our lives and we care about and love, now they have this skewed vision of people and they like put everybody in these pockets. That's where we get things like racism. That's where we get things like people who are bigoted, people who have like strong views against people because of their religion or because of their political view. Like we get that ugly side of it from, I don't think it's from our actual experience. I think it's from media. Like I think the ugliness can come from that media if it's twisted in a way and it affects individuals in that negative light.
Yeah.
But overall, I think the exposure of culture is a positive.
Yes. Yes. I mean, it's finding commonality in any which way you can is a great way just to be able to tear down a lot of barriers that other people have towards other cultures.
Yeah.
And if there's a commonality that can bridge that gap to say, we're not so different, you and I, is important because ultimately I want my life to be a reflection of who Jesus is.
Yeah.
And that's what Jesus did. He came to obviously seek and save that which was lost, but he didn't come for the people who thought that they were spiritually healthy. He came for the sick and the broken and the needy. And one of the ways that you can find out who are the sick, who are the broken, and who are the needy is finding some kind of commonality to be able to begin to understand of how I can help address those issues.
Yeah.
And being a help to people who desperately need it. Who desperately need Jesus. But I think that's one of the reasons why I'm just so intrigued with. I mean, I'm also just curious. I just want to learn about people. Like I genuinely just want to learn about people.
That's perfect. Okay, so you actually, without probably even knowing it, you just put me into a segue. So this cultural intelligence that I've been looking into and just kind of like, okay, again, discovery. I just started looking into this in the past like week or two. Like really, I'm not an expert at all. But there was a book written by I believe it was by the Theory founder, and he states that growth in cultural intelligence, like to grow your cultural intelligence, it comes from crucible moments, meaning something that happened to you that was unideal.
Yeah.
Like you had to change jobs. You had a family loss. You had, we look at even things like on the national and global level, like a natural disaster or a act of terrorism or a political upset. Like all of these things can be crucible moments. And coming out of a crucible moment, if you can immediately address self-awareness, where am I now?
Yeah.
As soon as this crucible moment happened, where am I now? What are my thoughts about this? Like, where do I see myself? Which side of this am I on? Am I trending in a healthy direction, unhealthy? Like being able to recognize maybe even your part in that crucible moment, because it could be a relationship. Like, and you're responsible for something that happened in that. Like,
Yeah.
and so like recognizing the self-awareness and then pairing that with a learning mindset, like having the self-awareness and pairing it with a learning mindset is the first step of growing in cultural intelligence.
Yeah.
And saying, look, I see where I am and I understand that things have to change. I need to learn how things are going to move on from here.
Yeah.
That is like the first layer to come out of that towards growth. I know that for me, I have seen that happen firsthand. Like moments where I'm like, wow, I don't think I would have known that before. I don't think I would have been prepared for this situation before. It came out of a terrible moment
Yeah.
that I looked at and said, no, this can't happen again.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I think for me, I don't know that it was like something like on a national stage, but it was just like a lot of instances that happened, like that were just like almost kind of like one-on-one crucible moments. So that instance in India, like I've seen people get jumped and beat up because of the color of their skin, and I don't know. I feel so sorry for a lot of the injustices that happen to people just because of where they may be from or the color of their skin.
right.
Like, I hate it. Like, it drives me absolutely insane that there's still moments like that are happening all throughout the world and in America. And I don't know what I can do to fix it, but I'm committed to be a part of the problem or the solution to fix it.
Right.
Because it's a problem.
Well,
because I want to be able to have those moments to where I want to know about someone. I want to know about where they come from. I want to know the ins and outs of everyday life and what it's like. And it's not even just so much of like the drastic get in an airplane and fly to a different part of the country or the world. It's what can I do to find those cultural moments that are just right here in our backyard in Charleston, West Virginia.
Yeah. And they exist. They exist here. Like, it's happening. And so this crucible moment paired with self-awareness and learning mindset, whenever it comes to like, okay, what's next? The book describes that. I have an image in front of me from the study itself. And it says, after you have your you've accepted a learning mindset from your own awareness, you then pair these three, you take these three things and put them together to really elevate that growth. Compassion plus integrity plus relatableness. So like, okay, I see this situation that happened. I don't want this to happen again. I see my part in it. Like, I've learned how to maybe not do this again or go through this again. Now my compassion level hits for those who are going through what I went through. Yeah. It hits for those who might go through what I went through. It hits for those who've never gone through it, and maybe they aren't seeing it as a moment because they've never experienced it. We saw that a lot in the last couple years, like people who've never experienced any kind of hate or been looked down on or treated differently, and they're like, well, I don't understand why this is such a big deal. Well, because you've never experienced it. Like, and so like there's a lack of compassion there to recognize that. And then paired with integrity, meaning I'm not just going to do this for one group of persons or myself or my family. I would do this for anybody. Like, this is who I am now. Like, I would, if I'm going to say that I would commit to standing up for you, I'm going to stand up for anyone who's being taken advantage of or any person who, whatever that looks like. And then the relatableness. I think relatableness comes down to literally what you said, like, let me have that meal with you. Like, let me see our common ground together. And pairing these things together, according to the study and the theory written in 2015, like, these elevate our cultural intelligence and take it to the next level. So for anyone who feels like, man, I feel like I don't understand anybody who's not like me. Like, I step into a room, and if somebody isn't close to my age, if they're not close to my skin tone, if they're not close to my geographical, like where I grew up, like if they're not anything like me, I have trouble connecting man, this is where like I'm seeing this come into play.
Yeah.
Take a quick survey of yourself, your self-awareness. Are you willing to learn and to grow and to change?
Mm-hmm.
And then using those things like compassion, like integrity, and finding ways to be relatable. That's just going to, the next time, if anybody is willing to try this, I think the next time you get into a situation where you would normally say, yeah, this isn't what I would be comfortable in, you would be more comfortable that time around, because you've taken the steps to have a better relational experience with somebody.
Yeah, and even more so too is not jumping to conclusions. Whenever something happens, I mean, we saw a lot of it during, before COVID and during the COVID pandemic, and it was so many people jumped to conclusions whenever we were seeing these injustices happening.
Yeah.
And they picked a side, and you have to almost, I mean, and it's a very trying and testing time in a road to walk down, but you have to almost kind of like take your personal emotions out of it and put yourself in the situation of someone who some wrong was done to, and the family members and all of that, and you have to just say, like, I'm so sorry that had happened.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I'm trying not to get into politics or anything like that, but you have to displace all of that stuff that you've been ingrained and maybe brought up and taught, and you have to find some kind of commonality and to be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes, whether that's good or bad or negative or positive or just whatever, and be empathetic towards the situation.
Well, I think that it's important because of, before we started this, I was like, man, there's a scripture verse that I have to locate. I have to locate this because I know this is why this is so important to me. So I have an education behind me. I went to school my whole life. IQ, we're going to do a Nana's Casserole that talks about why that's important with generic IQ. I went to school. I have a degree. Like, I continue to do furthering education courses every couple years, including things like I did a study on how to prepare escape rooms, how to deal with different types of trauma informedness, different types of behavioral management in classrooms. Like, those things are still interesting to me, and I still study those things because I work with students. Like, even though it's not in a classroom context, like, those things are still very important to me. And so I do value education. I value intellect. Like, I have a high value for those things. But as a believer, I know that, like, God is an intellectual being. Like, God is intellectual. Like, he has all the knowledge beyond what we could ever comprehend. He makes us like him in the sense that we have intellect. We're able to create and perform and develop things and come up to conclusions, like all of these things. That's not an accident. Like, God gives us that. But in Micah, in the book of Micah, there's this kind of like conversation where the people of God's people just have this roller coaster. You just have been going through it with Scott. Like, you guys have been going through the Old Testament, some of these stories. Like, man, Israel has their ups and downs with God. Like, they are just like all over the place, like trusting God, then trusting self, then saying, God, sorry, like take us back. Like, all these things go on and on and on. Micah, minor prophet, same, like, he's talking about it too. Like, he's like, okay, God, so what do you want from us? Do you want us to burn more animals? Do you want us to do more things? Do you want us to do, and in my mind, we can substitute, do you want us to read more books? Do you want us to go to more school? Do you want us to sit in more lectures? Do you want us to, like, all these things? And God says, what I want you to do in Micah 6:8, maybe, he says, I want you to love justice, to seek mercy, and walk humbly with me. Like, I want you to love to live a just life.
Yeah.
I want you to love mercy, and I want you to walk humbly with me. Recognize that your intellect will not be my intellect, but you can still be like me in the ways that you think and function and learn. But also, you need to love justice. You need to love to live a life of justice and love giving mercy to others. Like, that is so critical. And that's what I think, like, looking at this, like, cultural intelligence and emotional intelligence paired with, like, IQ, like, there's something there for the believer. Like, there's something there for you as the believer to recognize that, like, man, God wants more than just my mind. He wants more than just my knowledge. Like, he wants me to be an active role in this this beautiful new creation that he's working on, and I am a collaborator. Like, as a collaborator, I have to look for ways to be a part of culture, whether that's my work culture, my home culture, whether that's a culture across the globe or a culture down the street. Like, what am I doing to bring justice there?
He's looking for contributors and not passengers.
Yeah,
Like,
man.
He wants us to contribute to all of that.
Yeah, I agree. And that's where, like, I think this has really got me on the hook looking into this stuff, is that it's not just your mind that God wants, it's your heart too. Like, I think, and this is my personal experience, I grew up with Bible quizzing. Like, did you know Bible quizzing stuff? I never did it.
Yeah, I did. It was the little thing. It was
Yeah,
like a
the little
trivia
buzzer.
game for kids.
Yes. I never did the Bible quizzing. My sister did the Bible quizzing. I had some friends in youth group that did it. I was too cool for it. Like, I was just like too cool. Really, it was because I had terrible memorization. I'm terrible at memorizing things.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I know, like, if you're like, what would Jesus want you to do in this situation? I would be pretty good at answering that.
Yeah.
But it's like, what did Jesus do in this situation? I'm like, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
So anyway, like, I never did that, but I felt like that, not that it was all bad, because that's not what I want to, like, get across here, but we need to be careful that as believers, we're not putting more emphasis on what you know versus, like, who you are, like, who owns your heart. Like, that is more important to God than how much you know about God. Like, actually knowing Jesus is more important than knowing about Jesus.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like in this, like, cultural information, like, I think that our cultural intelligence, it's, you could know a lot about culture, but what are you doing about that? Like, okay, if you know there are injustices in your community, like, what are you doing to make sure those things are starting to become dissolved? Like, if you know that there's someone who needs desperate mercy because of a situation's been put on them or that they've put on themselves, like, what are you doing to see that that mercy is taking place? And I don't know, like, that's just kind of where my mind is headed with some of this. 'Cause I just think it's too important. Like, having a heart about God, is just too important to avoid, or to, like, say, like, oh, that's something that I can work on when I know more, I'll do more, or whatever. It's like, I don't know, man. Like, there's stuff we could be doing that, you know, maybe we're not, but
Yeah. I just like to celebrate people.
Yeah.
And the cool things that they have going on in their lives, and celebrate the fact that I learned something new.
Yay!
You know, about someone. And I think that that's important, because whenever you celebrate, it shows value to someone.
Yeah.
Whoever say, you know, we celebrate birthdays and milestones and accomplishments. How come we can't celebrate the fact that people do something a little bit different?
Yeah.
How come we can't celebrate the fact that just celebrate whatever I've learned? And whenever you celebrate someone or a group of people, they take pride in who they are, and they know that they are seen and that there's value because someone took the time to celebrate it.
Well, that is like the cool thing about it, is like, when we do celebrate people and we honor people, like, we are able, I don't know, maybe this is just my opinion, but I also think that it's probably pretty true too. When we do that, we're honoring God. Like, God made people. Like, we are his craftsmanship. Like, we are his likeness here and now. And when we honor people, we're honoring God. Like, that can't be ignored or avoided. Like, and same is true the opposite. When we dishonor people, when we talk poorly about people or treat people poorly, we're doing that to God. Like,
ooh, that's a good thing.
And whenever we're like living a life that we say, hey, I'm like Jesus, like I'm a Christian, yet we speak poorly about people because of their, specifically because of things they can't change. That's really disgusting. Sorry.
Yes,
but
it is.
Whenever it's, even if it's choices they're making, like, and we're speaking poorly about them as a person and not about the choices, that's still not honoring the Lord. Like, that's still a dishonor to God. And
That's a great way to put it.
we got to open our eyes to that stuff, myself included. I'm trying to not be a part of the problem myself, looking for ways. And that's where working with teenagers helps, because their culture changes so fast. Keeps me on my toes. I'm aware more than ever of what's going on in the world. And they're not, at least from what I've seen, they're not afraid to talk about the difficult things.
Yeah.
Like, they are not afraid to say, hey, there's something really terrible happening in the world, and every Christian I know is saying nothing about it. What's that about?
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, 15-year-old.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'll wake you up in a cold sweat.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right, I'm ready for a scoop of Nana's casserole, I
Okay.
guess.
I have Nana's casserole. So my casserole today comes from, it's a 2-part casserole, and it is just on generic IQ. Have you ever taken an IQ test?
I haven't.
I don't think I have either. What if we're both real dumb?
I wouldn't be surprised. I'd celebrate that with you.
Get a cake made. We dumb. Okay, sorry. That would be amazing. Okay, so I don't think that I've ever taken an IQ test before either. And these
I
are
don't know
just,
that I want to.
especially after this conversation. Like, oh gosh, the pressure's on.
Yeah.
So anyway, these are 5 facts that I found online about IQ tests.
Okay, so no questions.
No
that are
questions.
from the actual IQ test.
So no, oh my gosh, no
Yeah,
IQ test.
I started
questions.
sweating.
No way, dude. Like, I read the culture of this room.
Yeah. Thanks.
Like, we can't do any testing today.
At least we found some commonality.
There it is. Oh, okay. So, did you know, these first 5 are just kind of like, did you know kind of question, or like info. And then the last ones, I want you to just take a guess. It's going to be good times. Did you know that your IQ is significantly affected by your school attendance? A study published in 1940, even though it's a long time ago, IQ has been around for a hot minute, found that IQ levels decrease when access to formal schooling is limited.
It makes sense.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
I think it makes a lot of sense. So stay in school, kids.
Or parents, bring your kids to school.
Yeah, take your kids to school. IQ tests cannot measure your social or emotional skills. They can also not measure your creativity or artistic skills. It only measures your intellectual abilities. Since it does not have the scope of measuring job-specific skills and knowledge, it cannot be used to measure all intelligence levels. I thought that was good and helpful.
Yeah.
Because then when I fail my IQ test, I'll be like, well, it doesn't measure everything.
Yeah. You should see my creativity score
That's right.
results.
So initially, the IQ test, I thought this was neat. The IQ test score of a person was measured by dividing their mental age with their actual age. And then that result was multiplied by 100 to get the score. So like, essentially, like, to keep a high score, you would have to, in my opinion, you'd have to continue to learn and grow that intellect.
Yeah.
That's neat.
Yeah,
that's
that is pretty
cool.
nifty.
But
why the 100?
I don't know. To get the number, that's cool. Because, I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, what is that? Someone at the door?
No,
No, there's some work happening.
Some work happening.
Okay. Last one, or no, not last, second last one. Your environment and your surroundings does greatly affect your IQ. Factors such as stress, socioeconomic status, malnutrition, and attitude can impact your IQ score.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Another one of those makes sense statements.
It does. It does make sense. And it's interesting to think that, like, man, I wonder if people maybe got like the thumbs down because of IQ scores. And it's like, you didn't know what their life was like that day. Or I don't know. Crazy. And the fifth one, IQ isn't affected by gender, age, family size, or birth order. Because I was reading on some of this, like there used to be like theories that like, oh, the oldest child versus the youngest child and all this stuff. And it's like, no. Like none of that matters.
Yeah, I've played the middle child card a lot, you know, it's just like, and you're an idiot. I'm like, I'm just a middle child.
Kid. I am also a middle child.
I'm like the only one of my siblings with brown hair, so just leave me alone.
I was the leftovers. Like this is who I am. Okay, so I'm gonna go into celebrities with high IQs. This is according to The Bright Side. It's a blog online.
Cool.
Let me first start by saying the highest IQ on this list is 166.
Okay.
And then the lowest is 154, and there's only 4 celebrities.
Okay.
So I'm going to start with that. 166, 160, 157, and 154. And then I'm going to give you the celebrities. I want you to try to match them up if you can. 166, 160, 157, and 154. The celebrities include Matt Damon, Lisa Kudrow, Snoop Dogg, and Lady Gaga. So Matt Damon, Lisa Kudrow, she's like Phoebe from Friends.
Yeah.
Snoop Dogg, and Lady Gaga.
Ooh.
166, 160, 157, and 154.
All
These
right.
are like super high IQs.
I'm going to say Matt Damon's the lowest on there.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say Snoop Dogg would be next.
Okay.
Higher up. Then I would say probably Lisa Kudrow and then Lady Gaga up top.
You got 2 correct.
Really?
Lady Gaga and Snoop Dogg. So Lady Gaga, her IQ score 166. And then coming in next would be Matt Damon at 160. And then Snoop Dogg with 154 or 157. And then Lisa Kudrow finishing out at 154.
Which, understanding about the IQ test, like these are all
Those
still
are all
incredibly
crazy high scores.
Incredibly high.
They are crazy high scores. I thought that was really neat. Like,
Yeah.
because those are individuals that we all have probably like seen them in our life, not like personally, maybe.
Well,
but
most people would just base their opinions off of what their body of work is. Mm-hmm. So they see someone who plays a klutz on Friends. You see a rapper, which most times gets a negative connotation attached to it. You see people who are in comedies, and you see someone who just sings. You know, like Matt Damon does some serious work too as well. But he's been in comedies, but he's just an actor, and so like if you gravitate towards a role of his, then your perception of them can be greatly skewed of what they are actually like in real life.
I agree. Very cool. So that is, I'm so sorry if I didn't introduce at the beginning. That was Nana's Casserole. My name is Anna. I also am Nana, who brings the casserole on this episode of the Pastor's Potluck podcast.
Yep.
So just to like wrap up, my last note that I had for today is to be reminded that everyone is uniquely made and we have a unique intellect, and we can all honor God with the way that we use those things.
I loved it. I enjoyed this conversation. Now for some low IQ conversation. Welcome to the mystery meat. What's the most annoying reason you have gotten a traffic violation?
Oh boy. I don't know. There's one that I was annoyed by to the point that I got emotional, but then there was one that I was annoyed by and the picture shows that I was annoyed because it was a photo. It was an intersection. They grabbed my photo and I look the part. Paul actually, okay, I might tell him, but I'll tell this one for sure. I was in Colorado. I was on a trip with my sisters, and they had already arrived, and I was arriving later on my own. My flight got in really late. I picked up my rental car, and I just wanted to get there. It was like a 2-hour drive to get where I was going from the airport. Yeah. And I was like, I just need to get there. I'm exhausted. Like, so I'm driving, and I have a hat on, and it's like down low, and I have like a big winter coat on. It's up like all around me, so you can just see my face really. And I'm driving this black car, and I don't know. Paul, he thought this was hilarious, but either way, I saw a yellow light coming, and I was like, no, I'm not stopping. It's 1:30 in the morning. There's no traffic anywhere. I'm just driving, and I just drove right through it. Nobody was around. I saw the flash of the street lights, and I was like, well, I'm going to get some snail mail here soon. And so I finished up that trip. It was about a week. It was awesome. I get home, and a week or two later, I'm like going through the house, and I look at the fridge, and I go, whoa, what is this? Paul's in the other room. He's like, what? I said, when did this get on the fridge? I'm like feeling all nervous. And he goes, oh, is it your celebrity photo? And I was like, you saw this, huh? So he got it in the mail. The picture looks like it looks like a criminal. Like,
You still have it?
I don't think I do.
Oh.
I look like a criminal on the run. I look so grumpy. I'm like all bundled up, like blacked out.
Yeah.
And Paul decided to, instead of, I think he might have went online and paid it anyway, but he just magnets it to the fridge like it's an award. Good job, babe. That was terrible.
There was this one time where I got a ticket, and so I'll explain the situation, and then I'll tell you what the ticket was.
Yeah.
So there's this one area in San Antonio. It's close to my parents' house where you get onto the interstate, but it's like it kind of goes down this hill and then comes back up. And so it's real easy to speed a little bit there. And cops are usually sitting at the whenever you're going up on the other side of the hill, because they could see everything.
Yeah.
Like, and it's probably maybe 3/4 of a mile long from like this traffic light just on this access road to get onto the highway. And there's businesses all along on the right side, you know, people coming and going and whatever. And so I'm going down this, and there's this car dealership there, and somebody pulls out in front of me, and like I'm just driving the speed limit.
Yeah.
And so I turn into the other lane to not get hit.
Yeah.
Or run into the back of someone, because even if you run into the back of someone, it's still my fault because I wasn't being aware and I ran into the back of someone. It's my fault. Mm-hmm. So I quickly turn left, and then as soon as I get past the other guy, I quickly turn right just to kind of, hey, I'm here, just like you are not paying attention. Cop sees this whole thing unfold and pulls me over, and the citation on the traffic ticket was no turn signal left, no turn signal right. I'm like, why would you not pull over this idiot? Like,
oh, that's amazing.
For reckless driving, for pulling right out in front of me. Like, I did whatever it took, and I went to court and I fought it, and the cop didn't show up, and so I got
nice, good,
released. But I just said, I was like, it just infuriates me, and like there was nothing else on the citation except for no turn signal left and no turn signle right.
That's amazing. Yeah, that would be irritating.
Frustrating.
That'd be irritating. I'm less irritated. The other story that I had, it just was annoying. It wasn't.
Yeah.
I'm not going to share it. It's not worth sharing, but it just was an annoying situation.
Yeah.
I haven't had too many run-ins, but the ones I've had, they have been pretty mild for the most part. And yeah, I was like, yeah, I get it.
So this is why I wrote this question. What's the most annoying? That's a pretty annoying reason.
Yeah.
Like, just because I knew that I was like, I'm going to have to go to the stinking court. I've got to fight this. It's going to take time out of my day, because you sit there for a while and wait to be called up, and it's a multiple hour process. But anyways, alrighty.
That's cool.
I enjoyed this conversation. We hope you have as well. I hope it kind of like opens your eyes to maybe just getting to know somebody else and their culture and the way they do things and whatever, and be challenged by that.
Yeah.
Be taken out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And find something to celebrate.
Because people are worth it, man.
People are worth it. You're absolutely right.
It was a good time.
I felt like I wanted to pull a cuss there, because people are deserving of it.
Deserving of the cuss.
Not the cuss, but
depends on the day.
Depends on the day.
That's good.
Alrighty, we'll see you next Friday for another episode. If I don't get Scott to tell me to don't cuss on the potluck.
Nah, this is a good time. Good time. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening in with us today. We really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can also follow us on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, and you can also watch the video version of this on YouTube as well. All you have to do is search up the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. From all of us here, we want to say thank you, and we'll see you next week.